sajda. You would think he was dead because of how long he took in his sajda. I want to take you all back to Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, or the last 10 nights, which we all just assume is the 27th night, and we kind of put all of our, the masjid's full, right? But seriously speaking, Laylatul Qadr, or the last 10 nights, al-Ashr al-Awakhir, if you pray behind an imam in tahajjud, and the imam goes into sajda, and the imam takes a while in his sajda, and it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and you're not used to it. A lot of people are falling asleep in that sajda, and you're doing what you can to try to keep yourself up, because I don't know how to handle this. Imagine Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where he describes that moment where he says that I prayed qiyam behind the Prophet ﷺ one time, وَهَمَمْتُ بِأَمْرٍ سُوءٍ, and I thought about doing something really bad. That was, imagine, Hudayfa is the furthest person from nifaq, from hypocrisy, because he's the secret keeper of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ trusts him with the names of the hypocrites. But to paraphrase and summarize the hadith, we always talk about the first part. He entered into salah with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ started to read Surah Al-Baqarah. All right, he's going to read 100 ayahs or so. He kept going after 100. So okay, maybe he'll read 200. First rak'ah. And the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا قَرَأَ فِي قِيَامِهِ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ قَرَأَ آيَةً وَآيَةً. When the Prophet ﷺ used to read his qiyam, he wouldn't merge two verses. He would read one verse at a time. يَدْعُو وَيَبْكِي وَيَذْكُرُ اللَّهِ. He would make dua and he would weep and he would remember Allah with every ayah. So his 100 ayahs are not like your 100 ayahs. Maybe he'll do 200 verses. He did 200. Maybe he'll stop with Al-Baqarah. He did Al-Baqarah, then he started with Surah An-Nisa. Maybe he'll do 100 ayahs. He kept going. He finished An-Nisa. Maybe now we'll go into Ruku'. The Prophet ﷺ went back and read Ali Imran. Finished Ali Imran. But you know what's amazing about this? SubhanAllah. He said his ruku' was just as long as his qiyam. And then his sajda, which is where Hudayfa said, I thought to slip out and just abandon the prayer. His sajda was just as long as his qiyam. Can you imagine making sajda for that long? If his feet swelled, alayhi salatu wassalam, from his qiyam, what about his head? From how much time it was bowed on the floor? How much time he spent in that prostration? And how did Omar radiallahu anhu describe it? In one narration, Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu saw the Prophet ﷺ in that sajda, and I thought he might be dead because of the stillness that the Prophet ﷺ achieved in that sajda. And you know what's amazing about that? The Prophet ﷺ described that as his joy. That was his favorite time on earth. His favorite time to be alive. That was his qurratu ayn. That was the joy of his soul, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May Allah allow us to love our ibadah like that. And to love our sajda like that. That was his joy. He was so happy when he was there. It was better than being with his family. It was better than any type of relief. It was the Prophet ﷺ in sujood. The weight of the world coming down in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the elevation of the soul. It was the natural position of the Prophet ﷺ, where he mentions even on the Day of Judgment, إِذْ دَخَلْتُ عَلَىٰ رَبِّي, when I enter upon my Lord in the great intercession. Just imagine that moment where he enters into the divine presence and his natural position is to immediately assume a position of sajda. That I'll go into prostration with my Lord and I will have some mahamid, some praises. I can't even tell you what those praises are and what those du'as are yet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inspire me on that day with something that I can't even tell you right now. I can't narrate it to you right now because I don't actually know what it's going to be. Now that's the Prophet ﷺ with divine revelation. Have you ever found yourself in a position of sujood or in a position of du'a where you immerse yourself and the words start to flow? As if someone loosened your tongue. مَتَى أَطْلَقَ اللَّهُ لِسَانَكَ بِالطَّلَبِ فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يُعْطِيَكَ. When Allah unlocks that tongue, loosens the heart, it's because He wants to give you something. And the tongue starts to flow with the emotion of the heart. That's our Prophet ﷺ's favorite position, because that's Allah's favorite position for His ibad, for His servants. Now I want you to think of something else. What if I told you that there was a man who was making sajda when the Prophet ﷺ was alive, and he's still making sajda right now, and he never stopped? you would say, what are you talking about? The Prophet ﷺ, when he described the angels in the heavens, and he mentioned alayhi salatu wasalam, that there isn't a handspan in the heavens except that there's an angel that is in qiyam, in ruku' or in sujood. There are angels that were created from the beginning of time in sajda, and they remain in that time until the day of judgment. They remain in that place. Can you imagine being that angel who was created in sajda, glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the way until the day of judgment, billions of years? And then when that angel raises their head on the day of judgment, what would that angel say? Subhanaka ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. How perfect are you? We did not worship you as much as you deserve to be worshipped. It is the most blessed position. It is the most beloved position. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us death in our sujood. May Allah take our souls when we're in a place of sajda. Allahumma ameen. Some of you know the famous Sheikh rahimahullah ta'ala, Sheikh Abdul Hamid Kishk rahimahullah of Egypt. And he used to make that dua where he would ask Allah to die in his sujood. Allahumma ahyini imama wa amitni imama wa ahshurni bayna yadayk wa ana sajidun laka ya rabbil alameen. Oh Allah, let me live as an imam, die as an imam, and resurrect me while I am in a position of prostrating to you, O my Lord. Allah Azza wa Jal gave him death on a Friday in his sajda, on the day of Jum'ah. So have that dua that you make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah take you in that position. It's where you submit yourself, your mind is under your heart, you intellectually submit yourself, you emotionally submit yourself. أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ لِرَبِّهِ فِي السُّجُودِ. The Prophet ﷺ said the closest that you are to your Lord is when you are in your sujood. It's a position that was created for us to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.